So that we have this. And thanks everyone for taking the time today to learn a little bit more about MindTap for automotive and looking at the Gillis and the Erjavec books. So just to start out with you guys, has anyone ever seen MindTap before? Is this a brand new thing for you guys to see it for the first time?
Yeah, I've been in it before, but I would love to see more of it.
Yeah, I've seen it before too.
Okay, so you've seen it, but do you want me to get into the kind of organization in the ebook, or do you really just want to look at the particular assignments that you'll find in the automotive courses? I can start from the beginning if you like.
We have one guy who hasn't seen it, so let's start from the beginning.
Okay, great. So right here I'm in NGL Sync, and have you guys been in NGL Sync before where you can access our instructor resources, or is this the first time you're seeing this?
They haven't
site?
seen it.
Okay, great. So if you decide to use MindTap, I have a million courses in here because I'm the marketing manager for all of career and technology education. I guess I should introduce myself as well. My name's Abby Hess. I'm in our Boston office, so it's nice to meet you. But you would just have the courses that you're using in your class here, and you can see with an easy click, you can get to all of your instructor resources. Cognero offers test banks if you do want to, customize and print out tests for your students to use outside of MindTap. And then you'd have Launch Your Course button right here. I'm going to just go in and show you quickly the kinds of resources that you do have. They're organized here by the entire book under these folders, but there are test banks, so you'll have multiple choice questions, short answer questions for every chapter. The instructor manual is for every chapter, and it will give you a basic overview of the objectives that are in that class, a summary. If you're in your classroom time instead of the shop, it's going to give you, discussion questions, ways that you can bring up that information, and maybe even some classroom activities. You also have in your course support PowerPoint lectures. So both books have PowerPoints that you can use within your class time when you're not in the shop. And you'll probably find those in the instructor manual here. But both of these also correlate to NATEF and to the ACE exam. So those correlation guides are here as well. You can see we've got 2017 updates have been posted here. And then Dado, which we'll get into, have either of you ever seen Dado before or heard of Dado?
Yeah.
So that's the Del Mar Automotive Training Online. These are diagnostic scenarios. And so that correlation guide will show you how those scenarios match up to the objectives for an ATEF as well. So you've got quite a few, resources in here that you certainly can use, but I'm going to pop into the MindTap course. We're starting in Erjavec here. So this is the basic MindTap interface when you come in. I'm actually using the new dashboard. So Ariel, when you create a course for them to play around in, you can certainly show them how to do that. But this is what the MindTap interface will look like moving on from the summer. It's just changed the look a little bit. But you can see that the course is organized by the book. So if you have a copy of the book here, their Erjavec book has 9 sections. If you open up any of these sections, you'll see all of the chapters underneath that. And if you open up a chapter, you'll find the reading and the assignments that you've got in there. As a teacher, maybe you don't teach this in the same order. It seems like maybe you have multiple classes that you work through, right? Maybe a few of you teach engines and electricity, engine performance, and then students move on to suspension and brakes. So you certainly can hide any of these. If your students aren't going to be getting in there for a couple weeks or a couple months, as the teacher, I can just turn on the edit tool here, and I can select anything that I want, and I can hide all of these. I also can change the names of anything. So if you want to organize the course by week 1, week 2, or you want to rename them to match anything that you're using, you have the ability to change all of this. But the nice thing to know if you've ever used an online solution before is that I literally did no work before I set this up. This is exactly what the course looks like when you open it for the first time. all of the assignments are there, all of your certification prep is in there, and all of your readings in there. So there is really minimal setup in the beginning unless you do want to change this stuff. So I'm going to turn the edit off right now so that I don't change anything in here. But you do have two views. So this view right here that I'm in, with these two buttons, I can switch between views. If I do give assignment availability and due dates, so let's say that I want to, I only want students to be able to get into chapter 1 the first week. I don't want them getting ahead or behind. I can set availability and due dates, and then my students will be able to see those assignments appear under this calendar view, which will show them week by week. So the idea behind that, right, is that students are really only going to focus on, what do I have to do right now, teacher, right? What do I have to do during this week and get done before Friday? So if you do choose to do availability and end dates, students can use this week by week view. But mostly you'll be using this view right here, which is organized like your book. So I'm going to go, I'm going to pick in a chapter here. I'll go into the breaks chapter, section 8, and I'm going to go into chapter 50, which is break systems. So when I open this up here, you always have an overview, and this is going to open just a brief reading. It's really a short presentation that's going over the objectives for that assignment. And of course, if you didn't want your students to have to deal with any of this stuff, you can hide all these individual assignments. Your reading, I'm going to open up the reading quick if you haven't been in the ebook before. It's nice because it's organized by each chapter. All of these sections and these A heads in the book are hyperlinked, so I can get there very quickly. And when you're in here as a student, first of all, students can access the ebooks through a smartphone, and it's fully downloadable. So if you have students who might be reading on the bus or even want to listen to their textbook on the bus, and they can't use their phone data, or they do have smartphones, they certainly can do that with this ebook. Students can also take notes and annotate in here. So normally if you have your hardcover book in class, you don't want them drawing in it at all, but it is known to help students be able to retain information if they can work with the text. So as I highlight anything, I have this little box up here, and I can highlight this in one of 4 colors, whatever blue means to me. I can move on and highlight something else in a different color. But the nice thing as a teacher, if you're in this section and you know that there's one thing in this book that's really important that students never remember to read and they just usually skip over it, you can direct your students as they're reading to important information. So this first highlight here, that's orange, this is shared. So if I highlight anything as a teacher with orange, that means when my students go through and read the ebook, they'll see that it's highlighted and that I've marked that it's important for them. So it's a good way to kind of lead your students as they're reading the text and working through the book. You can also highlight, and I can add a note. So as a student, I might want to say, take another look. As a teacher, I might want to say, this is going to be important. You're going to have to know this for certification, or this is going to be, we're going to cover this in the shop tomorrow. So if I want to keep it as a note for myself, I just click save. But again, I can share this with the class because I'm a teacher. It turns orange, and that will be in my ebook for all my students as they come through here. So it's nice that, you know, students have this as a tool to be able to give themselves notes. You can use it as notes for yourselves as well, but you can also kind of communicate with your students as they're going through here. The other thing, do any of you guys use any videos right now, or maybe you have a PowerPoint lecture or an image, or even there's a website you like to take your students to? Do you bring any media into the class right now? Okay, cool. So the nice thing about this ebook, as a teacher, I have this little pencil tool, and if I click this, anywhere in the book that there's a plus sign, I can add any of that stuff. So the nice thing about MindTap, you know, it has so much content in here, but you guys have been teaching this stuff. You've probably, you know, been working in the field in the past, and you have resources that you found really valuable. You definitely can still share this stuff with students, and you can put it in that learning path that we saw before, or in the ebook. So I'm going to click right here. What am I looking at? Disc breaks. You can add anything that's on your computer. You can add in here. The easiest thing are YouTube videos. I don't have to go to YouTube. I don't have to grab any code and embed it in anything. I can just look for my video here. Disc, oh, and that's the wrong spelling of break. Again. Okay, so how disc breaks works. Maybe I found that this video is super helpful for my students. So I'm going to add that to my course. I can say, watch this before shop time, continue, and bam, that's added right in the ebook. So it's another way to get students in there, make sure that they're looking at important parts of the book, and you can share that content as well. You can have the entire text read out loud to you. So if you have students who have lower reading levels, or even if there's any ESL students, the nice thing about this ebook, I can select the whole page, or I can just select a piece of text. But if I have read text to me, I don't know if you could hear that, but it's reading it out loud and it's highlighting the words as it's read. So that's been found to help ESL students, and it's also just good for students who don't want to sit there and stare at it the whole time. So like I said, you can download it, listen to it on the bus, or maybe listen to it on your way to class. So when I have all these, notes and annotations in here, personally, I was like, this isn't going to help me. How am I going to click through this to find all that stuff again, right? And you can see that there are videos built within the ebook as well. So we have some of our own videos that are explaining some of these things, like how to check and adjust a brake fluid level. Those are in the ebook. But to be able to find all of your notes and your annotations that you've had, you might have noticed some of these funny looking icons over here. You might not use all of these, but there's some of these that I'm sure your students will find really useful. You might find useful the first year you're using it, and then end up finding some other ones useful as you get more acquainted with MindTap. But the Study Hub app is my favorite because it does the job of organizing all of those annotations and notes that you've put throughout your entire ebook. And then you can print them out. So if I go into notes and highlights, I was in brake systems. Here's the sections I was in.
Abby,
I can go right there. Yep.
can you exit full screen because the resolution's off on it, so we can't see the tabs?
Oh, you can't see everything?
No.
Let me squeeze it a little bit more. How's that?
There you go.
Okay, sorry, you didn't see where I was working, huh? So these are the icons over here on the right-hand side. And this is the Study Hub app that we were talking about. It looks like a little book with a highlighter in it. You can see that all those notes and highlights I took are right here. I can click the little arrow to take me right back to that page in the ebook. So there's no reason to lose your notes or not be able to find, the videos that you want to talk about in class, or if you're highlighting things that you want to get back to in your classroom time. The other nice thing about this, students can print it out. So right there, I've got a study guide, right? I can print out all the most important parts of the book that I thought that I need for my test or that I'm going to need for certification, and have that as a resource. So are there any questions about the ebook? There's a few more features there, but those are some of the coolest ones, if you ask me.
When they download it, what kind of file is it?
So when they download it on their phones, you can only download it on your phone, right? And the idea is that you don't have to use your data. And to do that, students have to add a free app to their phone. So they can do it, through the iTunes store, or what is it in Android, wherever you go in Android to get apps. And when they do that, they would just log into their course like they would in NGL Sync. And then they would literally have their course and their ebook would read right within that app. Does that make sense? So they could do that on an iPad too, if any of your students happen to have iPads. Okay, so I want to show you in the instructor resources as well for both of these books when you're in here. Let me go back here, open up one of these resource tabs. Let me see. I believe they were in the course support link. There are Excel spreadsheets because I'm going to show you one chapter, but there are so many activities. And of course, these are big books, right? They're enough for your full program. So if you want to be able to see a list of what is in all of these chapters, what are the assignments that I can use for a grade, or maybe things that I want to hide or I don't want to worry about, this customization spreadsheet lists all of that out. So for instance, if I'm in Airjavik, this is, I downloaded this earlier. You can see I've got all my chapters here. I'm looking at chapter 50, and I can see all of the assets that are in there. So I've got a reading, I've got a bunch of videos, and maybe these are videos I want to show in class, or they might be things I ask my students to watch at home. I've got some assignments, and this column here in E is going to tell you how it's graded. So a lot of assignments in here are automatically graded. You don't have to go in at all. You certainly can go in and check and see exactly what your students did if you're interested, or if your students have a question, but you don't have to. Whereas other assignments, like this one is an essay and short answer questions, right? So students actually typing in a short paragraph, the computer's not going to grade that. So that's manual. So a lot of teachers will just hide and not assign the manual assignments because really there's enough that's automatically graded that you can use for your class time besides your, job sheets and when you're working on procedures. Or you can use that and in a training, if you would decide to use MindTap, we can show you how you would go in there and grade those manually graded assignments. But this is a really good resource because you can easily see there's a bunch of data scenarios in here, what's in every chapter without having to click in through the MindTap course. So we'll make sure that you guys have access to that. I'm gonna go back into the course again. So now when I'm here in Erjavik, you'll see slight differences between that one and the Gillis course and what's in there. So to kind of compare, let me get into the first breaks course. You'll see that both have an overview and a reading, and then basically they might be organized slightly differently, but these are the assignments that you'll find in each course. You have a bunch of videos and animations. So one of those videos we saw briefly, within the ebook, it's going to help students visualize what's going on within the different parts of the vehicle. They also might show, procedures, how you would do something. So some of these will just be kind of animations that are helping them visualize how things are working within the car, whereas others might be a little bit more informational on step-by-step. You'll also have some auto-graded assignments that you'd see there. So there's a bunch of review questions. You've got some review question submittal. And when you can see here, when anything has this orange counts towards a grade, that means that if your students do it, it's going to flow right into your to your grade book. Yep.
Can you just pick one of those videos and just let us watch some of it?
Sure. Let's look at brake lining construction specifications. Okay, so I can make this a little bigger.
Linings can be riveted or more often bonded to the brake shoes. Once in operation, the type of friction material used to make the linings affects braking. Edge codes on braking materials will identify the coefficient of friction. Linings with lower friction coefficients have a tendency to overheat faster under normal braking conditions, which increases the stopping distance when the pedal is applied to the brake. This is called brake fade.
Okay, so can you guys still hear me? Were you able to hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I took my headphones out so that maybe you could hear some of it.
Yeah. I just want to go off to get an idea of some of the material that's in there.
Oh yeah, of course. And you guys all both have access to demo courses right now, so you can get in here and play around and look more at them if you want. So you'll see there's a bunch of videos in here, and these, most of these will be found within the ebook as well. But see how that one that we watched was a video, and then you've got some that say an animation? Let's look at an animation really quickly. And you might not be able to hear this because I put my headphones back in. Let me see, where is that guy? Let's go to a different animation. Video. Most of these are videos, but some of them are animations, and in that way, sometimes it's like it's a 3D. It's just showing them what a different part of the car actually looks like. But we'll see those within the theory simulations as well, so I'll show you that. Okay, so you've got a lot of videos and animations. In the assessments, see how these review questions don't say that counts as a grade? That means they're practice, right? So it's something that your students could go in to practice before they have to do another assignment. You certainly can change any of these from practice to grade if you want to. But when I go in here, so this one, it's really just giving me a Word document that's got a bunch of review questions. So this is something that normally would be in the student companion site, and you can print this out and have students complete this in class if you want. It's kind of like an extra activity. Whereas if I go into the review question submittal, what I would do is I would print out that assignment, answer those questions, and then I would go here to upload that for my instructor. So let me, been in here. a little too long. Let me refresh. And it's the same thing with the job sheets, which we'll get into here. We're in assessments. Okay. Was this the chapter I was in? Oh no, here. I was in this course. Oh, you know why? I was in Gillis and I just opened up the other one. So you can see how these are slightly different. Your Javik has a bunch of true and false questions. Okay, now let's get into brakes and tires where I was. Brakes fundamentals, chapter assessments. Okay, so I have those review questions, and then I would go in here to submit them. That's how the Gillis one is set up. So basically it's telling me to take that Word file, complete it on the computer, and then upload it here for a grade. The Air Javik one is a little bit different. It starts out with a multiple choice and true and false quiz, and this is automatically graded. So if I open up this assignment, it doesn't like me being in 2 courses at one time. That's the problem. Thinks I'm trying to cheat. Okay. So if I open up my multiple choice quiz here in Air Javik, I'll just give you a look at this. It gives me some brief instructions, and you see I've got some true and false questions here that I would work through as a student. So whenever they're multiple choice like this, they're going to be automatically graded. And so I'm just going to click some. I do not know the answers to any of these because I am obviously not an expert. But I'm going to go through here, submit assignment for grading. It's telling me, you know, you didn't complete the whole thing. And I got a 30%. So I get my grade back immediately. For this, it's set up so that I get 1 attempt. If you wanted students to be able to have a couple attempts, you certainly could have that. And then their grade would go right into the grade book for you to look at. So Air Javik also then has some ACE-style questions, and see how it says practice. That means that it is a practice assignment for them. So let's go in here. These ones are similar, but you know, this isn't going to go straight into the grade book. This is just practice for me, and it's certification prep. See how when I'm in the these certification style questions, it's timing me. It's timing me like you would be if you're in that taking that actual exam. And all of these A-style practice questions, this used to be sold as a separate product that you'd have to buy separately to have these practice tests. But they're all powered by this little app over here, the IQ app. And you guys can see this, right? It looks like a little white cue. And so these are pre-built into the learning path in the chapter so that your students can practice, you know, certification questions as they move throughout the course. But you can also have them take, you know, a pre-assessment of all the questions at the beginning. That's good to do because then students can really realize how much they have to learn, right? How much I have to go. And then at the end of the course, they can take a full exam to practice that. But all of those questions live in this little app here. And you can actually create your own if you want as well. So see in here, this is showing me the list. I've got the A1, A2, A3, all the way to A9. If you're getting into diesel, all of these exams are in here. And over here, it's listing how many questions I have under each section. So if I just wanted to create an exam for my students that's testing them on general engine diagnosis and some questions on cylinder head and valve train diagnosis and repair, I can just select those sections or whatever I want. Maybe, you know, that's too many questions for them. I don't need them to be working on 80 questions today. So let's just randomly choose 20 questions. I'm going to give them a 25-minute time limit because I really want to pressure them on this. And I do want them to see the correct answer after each question because we're just doing this as practice in class. I can then choose whether I want those to be shuffled. So if maybe students will try this a couple times, I don't want them to be in the same order, right? Or if there's 2 students sitting next to each other, I don't want them to see the same question 5, 6, and 7 that the question the student next to them is. So I can shuffle those, create, And then it'll ask me to make a name, and I can actually just add this assignment right anywhere into my course. So you've got, you know, all of these certification style mini quizzes throughout the course, but you can certainly create any kind of combination that you want.
Abby, real quick.
Yep.
Did you go back to that and go to electrical? I just want to look at something real quick.
Sure. Okay, so I'm going to go to new test.
Just scroll down to where I can see electrical.
Yep, and let me make this bigger for you too.
31 questions in your life. Okay. That's what we wanted to see. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Okay, so then here in the Airjavik one, you've also got some essay and short answer questions. So that's going to work similarly to what we saw, you know, in the Gillis book, where students would be able to pull up a Word document. It has some questions. They have to write a little short answer, and then they upload it, and that's one of those manually graded assignments, right? So if the computer's not going to grade it because they're typing in, you know, short answers here. But if you want them to do that, you would be able to access their submissions through the gradebook and give them a grade for that. So it's asking them things like, you know, explain why certain things are so important, explain why a height sensing proportioning valve is required on some vehicles. So it's just asking them to do a little bit more thinking, making connections between some of the topics that they're learning. So I am not going to save that. I'm going to move now to activities. You've also got graded assignments in here. Why the product team decided to call them activities rather than assignments, I do not know. But you have some video questions. So when students are doing these, they're watching a specific video. Sorry, this is a two-parter. I have a specific video that I'm watching, and this is principles for a vehicle braking system, okay? So I would watch this video, and then I would go in here and I would answer some questions about that video. So if you want to give students a homework assignment or a mini quiz that maybe is a little bit more interesting than just multiple choice questions, they're actually talking about a certain scenario and they have to make decisions. So in this one, it's saying technician A says the condition of the tires can affect braking performance, and another technician says vehicle weight can affect it. Which one's correct, right? So again, just a little bit of critical thinking there. The crossword puzzle is a crossword puzzle. If you like students to have, you know, little study games like that, that's an asset that we have in here. Matching. I'm going to start this assignment. This is popping up as a new window. Make sure if you're looking in this MindTap course and you're playing around with it, the first time you're in here, your browser might want to block any pop-ups, right? We like to do that so that we don't get annoying ads all the time. But if you see that, make sure that you click allow the pop-ups, and then you shouldn't have to worry about anything for the rest of your class. But if it looks like nothing's opening, that's probably what's happening. But you can see here in some of these matching ones, it's, you know, a good chart here is for a dual master cylinder, and I'm dragging and dropping the key terms to where I think they are. This is probably going to be completely incorrect because I have no idea how to do this. Click submit, and it's giving me my score right here. I see which ones I got wrong, and I got one right. So that would also go right into the grade book, and as a teacher, you would be able to see this. How this is set up, I'm allowed to retake this assignment. If you decide that you don't want students to be able to retake it, they should only be able to do it once, you can certainly change those settings. Let's just check Gillis here to make sure there isn't anything different. So here's some more labeling activities. That's going to be, they're calling it matching in Airjavik, but that's the same kind of assignment, right? They're dragging and dropping key terms to an image. So dado scenarios, you can see here in breaks, the same dado scenarios you'll probably find in both books. It just depends, you know, when they're talking about those certain issues. They all do map to certification, and that mapping is in the instructor companion site. But let's open up one of these. And actually, I'm thinking I might want to be in a different browser, but let me see if it works here. And you know what? This starts a new window. The dado scenarios, do you guys use Chromebooks at your school, or how would your students be accessing MindTap? From a laptop, so they have multiple browsers. The dado scenarios should be opened in Explorer or Safari, which I forgot. The theory simulations can be fine in Chrome. let me see here. I need to find my applications. Sorry about that. I should have thought about that ahead of time, but I'm so used to using Chrome because all my bookmarks are in there. Firefox. Okay. And I also want to note, if you guys haven't seen our simulation station page before, this does highlight both DATO, the diagnostic simulations, as well as the automotive theory ones. You can get in here and play with some of them. It also shows you a video that highlights what they are. And it's just, if you just type in Cengage simulation station, it'll take you right there. But I'm also just trying to delay you as I open this in a different browser. Okay, log on. I'm gonna grab this URL for NGL Sync. Let's go. CTE. And Chrome has all my passwords, so I'm gonna just check this out. Demo.nglte.com. Password. Okay, cool. While I'm opening that up, I'm going to mention the job sheets. So you do have the job sheets associated with all of these. So all of these, you know, the NATEF tasks that students need to work on that you're going to use in the shop, they're right here. Students can complete them on the computer, but a lot of people like to print them out. So you can totally print this out with a little print button at the bottom. Have students, you know, work with this on a clipboard or, you know, against a book while you're working in the shop, or they can complete these on the computer. So you got your objective of what you're working on, your description of your vehicle you're working on, and the steps for your procedure. It asks students to, you know, enter what are some problems that you encountered and what are your conclusions and your ultimate recommendations. And then it's got the checklist for whatever you're working on. So right now we're on a pre-break service inspection. Students would fill all of this out, whether it's in print, whether it's online. And if they do fill it out online, the nice thing is I can submit, and this is going to go right off to my instructor. All of these are automatically 1 point in the gradebook. You can certainly change how these are weighted or how many points you want students to be able to get for these sheets. But know that you can do them in print or you can do them online. But they are all in MindTap and they can be easily printed from here. You can buy a separate workbook that has them all in there if you want, but I'm assuming that you probably don't want to have to get something extra. So it's nice that they're in MindTap as well. Okay, so while I was doing that, I did open up my course here in Safari. So I'm going to get in here and show you one of those DATO scenarios. Let's go back to the same section we were in, brake systems. Over here in the chapter DATO scenarios, and I want to check a brake pressure concern. So the nice thing about DATO, it's been around for quite a while. This is about the third version of it. I already completed it. Come on. It's about the third version of it. And why teachers like it is that it is teaching procedure, right? It's teaching students, you know, to take safety checks, to work in the right order. But it's also asking students to have some soft skills. It's asking them, they actually do have to write on service orders that they would give to their customers. So they're practicing writing skills a little bit. And it does require Flash. So you do want to make sure that you have Flash on your computer. Let me see why it's bugging me right here. Okay, I'm gonna launch the demo this way. And I apologize, I don't know why this is having trouble on my computer right here. It usually does not. We might have to show you the DATO a different time. Have any of you in your sample classes opened up any of the DATO assignments yet?
You have or you haven't? You have.
Okay, let me just get back to Safari. I don't know why I'm getting an error here. It's probably something that I need to upgrade my browser. Or clear my cache. So let me show you this for right now. And you know what? I'm going to
Diagnostic scenarios were designed to develop the critical thinking and problem-solving mindset.
So you see, as we're going through here, there are these separate categories going across the top. You know, preliminary checks, problem analysis, visual inspection. And the nice thing about this is for every single one, students are going to work through the entire diagnostic spectrum. They're going to do all of these things for every single one. So it becomes rhythm for them. It becomes something that they practice and they know, okay, I've got to do some preliminary checks. Then I'm going to do a problem analysis, then a visual inspection. So they do work through each mode. It'll probably take students, it depends on the simulation, but it could take up to 20 minutes to do each one. So it's something fun that you can do during class time, right? They want to be in the shop. They want to be hands-on. This is kind of virtually hands-on. It's still teaching students everything they need for their MindTap certifications. It's getting in there a little bit of soft skills procedure. They get to see videos of real vehicles, which I like about this. And they're even working on the repair orders. So the first thing that happens is you're actually in a shop. You've got a couple people that you work with. I forget her name right now. I think it's Sarah. And she hands you a repair order, and it's got the customer concern, right? So students have to work through that diagnostic process to be able to deduce what's going on. So they're starting out with step one is the customer's concern. And then they've got their list of resources. So they can work in their toolbox, the vehicle interior, the exterior of the vehicle. They can look at that repair order, and they can go into the service information computer as well. These data scenarios, if you do go online to Cengage Simulation Station, you can try one of these. It might ask you to update Flash on your computer. Try it in Explorer and Safari. I apologize that my computer is having issues right now. But the nice thing about it is there is a training mode and a challenge mode. The training mode will kind of direct students where to go, right? They'll get a question. They'll say, okay, what do you do next? Are you going to look in the interior of the car? Are you going to look outside the car? Do you need to go in your toolbox, or are you going to go in the service information computer? And if you're in the training mode, it's kind of going to direct students where to go. Then if you assign challenge mode, then they have to actually know how to do that on their own. And the nice thing about this is if we look at the course, we'll go into the data scenarios here. That's in the brake lights. Which course am I in here? Okay. You've got the brake pressure concern, the hydraulic system concern. When you work in these, you're checking for a certain concern, but sometimes, you know, they can be a different one. So maybe you have them do the training mode for the first one, and then the challenge mode for the second, or what a lot of teachers do in class. Maybe we'll even work through the training mode together. It's a good way that you can, you know, model in class, and then students will go through and they'll do the challenge mode on their own. So you can do it either way, but let's get back into the video here.
As they progress through the scenario, students will be asked to use a variety of resources.
Okay, so that moved really quickly, but when students are looking here, they decided to go to the interior of the car. They're real pictures of real cars. So if it says that it's a Ford Explorer from 2011, you're going to see images and be working on a car that is a Ford Explorer from 2011. And you'll see that if I just go back really quickly, when students are in here, they still have their toolbox. So as they need to do their preliminary checks and work on the car, they choose which tools they need, and they do use them. So it isn't too much clicking. You don't have, it's not like a video game where you have to be really quick with your fingers, but I am going to, you know, click on to turn the car on and to listen to the sound that it's going to make. It's a lot of just basic clicking to turn things on and test things. There's one point, you know, where you're going to accelerate to listen to the acceleration. So you just, you know, push on the gas pedal, that kind of thing. So as students are working through these, they do get questions. And they'll show you these here.
Read and interpret actual manufacturer service information.
So as I'm working on the car, you know, sometimes I'll also have questions here that are going to ask me on the visual inspection, where am I going to look? And I will be looking at these kind of illustrations here and clicking on the appropriate sections of that. There I'm in the service computer. So I do have practice working in the service computer and finding the information that I need to move on.
And make the critical decisions required to arrive at the correct diagnosis.
Right. So they're going to have these questions pop up as they work through the entire diagnostic process, and as they answer all those questions, as they have to click parts of the car that they want to take a closer look at, or press that gas pedal. Those are all going to add up in points that they'll get at the end of the lab.
This same approach has been used by manufacturers to train their own technicians and has now been adapted to the needs of student learners. Two modes.
Yep, so here's where they're talking about that kind of training and challenge mode. So when you first come in, you'll have the learning mode. The learning mode, that will not go into your grade book in MindTap, so that's how students can kind of practice. And now when they want to test that, if you want that to be a grade, the challenge mode will get them the grade in MindTap.
Learning mode allows the student to practice with only their time spent being recorded. Challenge mode measures the skill level of the student, as well as the time spent on each task. Tips from professionals are offered along the way in both modes.
Good job at finding that intake manifold gasket leak and repairing it. You're not done yet, though. You should use the scan tool and verify the repair to make sure everything is normal.
Grades are all exported to a gradebook for the instructor to utilize. Dado has been carefully designed to meet the assessment and reporting requirements of NATAP's Standard 11 e-learning.
Okay, so Dado existed in the past as a separate product outside of MindTap. Once we created MindTap, which is supposed to be the one-stop shop for you to have everything you need for your entire course in there, it's now part of MindTap, and so those grades will feed to the gradebook. So I apologize that I couldn't show that to you live right now. As soon as we're off this call, I'm going to see what I need to do to my computer. It's probably just update Flash. But please, tonight or later this week, or as you're looking, get into a Dado scenario in one of these courses. If you have any issues having it pop up and turn on, let me know, and I'll put in a tech support ticket to make sure that you can see that, because it is a really valuable part of these courses. Okay. So moving on, I'm going to quickly show you some of the automotive theory simulations that you'll find in here. So these are a newer feature. They do not require Flash. They were built for MindTap specifically. They were never a separate product. But as you're in each chapter, you'll see some simulations up here in the simulation folder. And right now, these are both practice for students. You certainly can make them a graded exercise if you want. And when I start this assignment, okay, the simulation opens up. So in this one, because it's a simulation, I'm not seeing, photos of real vehicles. A lot of this is theory. It's explaining how things are working. So the nice thing about this is, all of this is in the reading. We've got videos in the reading as well. But these theory simulations are a really good way to get students interested, and they're kind of interacting with what's normally in the textbook. So there's always a little video here that's going to teach students how to use the simulation. Definitely watch through that the first time. Have all of your students watch it in class. It's pretty simple, but it just describes how you're going to work in this assignment. And then the second video here is going to be a video that's giving students information, right? It's kind of summarizing what they're going to be reading in the textbook for this area, and they're learning as they're watching that video. Once they do that, it gives them some background information so that they can get into the simulation and start working. So since I did not watch the video or read, I'm sure I'm going to get everything wrong.
Welcome to the virtual shop. Today you will be performing a brake inspection. This car is in the shop for routine maintenance, and no concerns are noted on the repair order. When working in the shop, always follow the safety guidelines provided in service information, tool operation manuals, and other technical literature. To protect yourself from injury, wear personal protective equipment, PPE, dress appropriately, work professionally, and correctly handle tools and equipment. Click on the Continue button to acknowledge that you understand the importance of safety in the automotive shop.
So I could skip that introduction if I wanted to, but I wanted to show you guys, when students open this up, it tries to do this to really make students remember, that they do need to acknowledge what they would have to do to be safe if they were doing this on a real car. So, it's good to watch the first time. I can skip it after I've gone through a whole bunch of these simulations.
Activity 1. Checking the warning lights and parking brake operation. Begin your inspection by checking the operation of the brake warning lights on the instrument panel.
Okay, so
Turn the ignition on and check that the brake and ABS lights illuminate.
So you can see here, these are all animated computer-generated images of the interior of a car, whereas Dado is actually taking real images of real cars. It's asking me to turn this on, obviously, but I just wanted to show you some of the things that students will be working with in here. In that first video, explain students how to use this. The closed captions for everything that it's saying to me is right here. So, if you do have a student who wants to replay that, I can replay the audio, but if they do have any hearing problems or anything like that, it has closed captions. I can turn the sound off. And in this menu here, if I click tasks, it's going to show me step by step what the tasks are that I'm working through in this assignment of the simulation. So each simulation, I'm working on a couple different things. That will show me what I'm doing. First one is turning the key on. I'm going to start the engine, fully set the car into brake, release the parking brake, and then turn the engine off. So this is a very, very basic brake inspection. I do have videos to help me with this. So using the simulation, that's just the first one that you could watch. Understanding the equipment, that's that theory video that I could watch in the beginning. So maybe I thought I could just do this on my own without watching that video, so I jumped in, but I can get back here and watch it again. We might open up a few other ones because depending on the simulation, you'll also find some animations and videos in here that would further explain and help you visualize the parts of the car or the section of the systems that we're working on. And then activities here, I can move through these. Let's say I just want to jump to removing the wheels and the tires, I can do that. So to finish the entire simulation, I'm going to do these 5 activities. When I looked at the tasks, these were the 5 tasks that were in the first activity. So, in one simulation, you could technically be doing, up to 25 to 30 individual pieces, but they're pretty easy, right? I'm turning the car on. So let me turn the car on.
Now start the engine to see if the warning lights remain on.
Okay. So now I'm
Please follow the steps provided.
And if I click somewhere I'm not supposed to, it tells me it followed the steps provided.
Please follow the steps provided.
Start.
Good. The warning lights are working as expected. Next, check the parking brake. Press the parking brake pedal and note how many clicks until the brake is fully set. Good. The parking brake works properly. Press the parking brake pedal to release the brake. Great. Now turn the ignition off. You have completed Activity 1, checking the warning lights and parking brake operation.
So you can see that
you should make sure the brake warning lights on the instrument panel
that
work
was a very basic theory simulation. But as you look through other ones, like let me see one that I was working in here. Let's look at engines briefly. Simulations. See, some of them are actually doing that. You're testing a camshaft. Other ones are just telling you basic theory, right? They're explaining things. So let's get into basic theories and math. And tools and shop equipment. Okay, diagnostic equipment and special tools. These ones are great. So this is in Chapter 6 in your Javik. Students get to practice using some of the tools that you'll be working on, right? A voltmeter, some of your other meters here. And if I open this one up, this one will look a little bit different from the one we just saw. I'm going to enter the simulation. I'm going to skip the intro this time.
Activity 1,
it's telling me to be safe.
Setting up the voltmeter. Taking a voltage measurement is one of the most common types of tests you will perform in the auto shop. Drag the positive lead to the voltage jack.
Okay, so I did not watch that video. Me being me, I have no idea where the voltage jack is. Maybe it's here. Nope, that's
Please
wrong.
follow the steps
provided. Me the steps are wrong. But see, I can actually turn on this tool.
Please follow the steps provided.
But it's going to force me to go into the steps that we're supposed to be doing. So here now, if I watch videos, I can watch the understanding equipment and the activities. It's giving me my steps, and I'm exiting that. So, you know, depending on the chapter that you're in, you are learning about different things. You're using tools, you're practicing checks, but sometimes you're also viewing animations and learning about those specific pieces. So let's go to electricity.
We saw what it does when they make too many mistakes.
Yes, what's the question?
When you click the wrong area too many times, we show that.
Do you want me to show that again, or?
Just in the simulation, so if you click the wrong area too many times, it highlights where you're supposed to go.
So you will not be able to move on until you do it correctly. And the reason why that is because students can always watch the video where they're learning about that theory to review, right? You just need to take the time to do it. Or, you know, their progress will be saved as well. So they could go back to the book if they want to. So, I mean, this is something you could do, you know, together in class, or you could have students work on it independently. You can see that all of them are set up as practice, really. So, you know, you'll be able to tell when a student completes it, and you'll be able to see the grade if you want to, but it's not going to go into the grade book. But students cannot move on until they get it correct. I like this one. I'm trying to show you one specific feature. I just need to find one of the ones that has it. Okay. Sorry.
With a water analogy. Adjust the water flow slider and observe the flow of the water. Change the pressure in the water tank by moving the slider up. Notice that the flow increases due to the pressure. Increasing pressure or voltage can increase current flow. Slide the voltage slider up to increase it. This increases voltage and the bulb gets brighter. Slide the resistance slider up. As resistance, or ohms, increase, the bulb gets dimmer.
Right, so in this one, you know, this really is theory, and it's giving me an image and kind of an interactive tool to be able to visualize what's going on when we're talking about Ohm's law, right? So that's a little bit different. You're not just working in a car. It's trying to give students a visual that will help them understand some of these basic fundamentals. Let me go into videos here. No. So some of these, I'm not finding one right now, but some of these, when you go into the videos, if we're talking about a specific part of the car, it'll actually give me an animation that's a 3D 365 view of that piece that we're talking about, and I can turn it around and see what it looks like from all angles. So that's kind of nice. Sometimes you'll find those in the videos if that helps students out. Do you have any questions about how the theory simulations work? Do you think that these would be useful or something a little bit more interesting to do in class time than just going through a PowerPoint or having students read the book?
Anything that you can help.
Right.
You don't know what will affect one student one way.
Exactly. And so, I mean, this is all set up as practice. You can certainly assign it and make sure all students are doing it. But like you said, you know, some students, maybe they wouldn't get this until they work through the simulation, whereas others might find a lot more help in, you know, when they're working in data and working through a real life scenario. And, you know, others just need to do it hands-on. So it just provides, you know, multiple methods to be able to learn about these topics, as well as, you know, then going in and let's practice our exam skills so that we can get the certification at the end of this. Something, if you hadn't seen MindTap before, I want to quickly walk into the grade book, which is the little progress app over here. And I don't have students in my course, so I'm going to show you a sample. But the nice thing about this grade book, I'm sure you've used grade books in the past, it's got the basic grade book that you're used to, where you've got, you know, a list of all of your students' names. Let me see here. You got a list of all of your students' names. It shows every single assignment that they're completing, and it shows you the grade that they did on that assignment. But the nice thing about MindTap is because students are working online, it's also tracking how they're engaging with the course. So if you click into the Analytics tab, it basically gives you a visual where all of these dots are students in a course. And when I'm looking at this axis here, it's showing me the average score that they have, right? So the average for my whole class is a 79%. That's on all of their quizzes, anything that I make graded in those assignments. Maybe they're dado scenarios, they're video quizzes, there's some short responses, they're turning in their job sheets and things like that. But the x-axis of this grid is showing how they're engaging with MindTap. And so you saw how many things in there are practice, right? There's the theory simulations, crossword puzzles. We've got flashcards, which I forgot to show you, but there are flashcards to learn those key terms, and that helps prep for your certification as well. But those are all things that students can use if they want to, right? They're study tools, as well as the ebook, right? Maybe some students will read, some students won't read nearly as much. Maybe they'll only read what you highlight and direct them to. But that's all time that they're spending in the course, and those are all individual activities that they're clicking and opening, and MindTap tracks that. So on the x-axis, it's showing the engagement level. And that's calculated by how long students are in the course. That includes, if they're on their phones reading the ebook, how many times they're logging in, and the percent of activities they've accessed. Now, there's actually 16 different kinds of activities that we're tracking when we're saying that. And it's all the activities that are in MindTap, but it's also the resources that you might add yourself. So if you have a video that you made of yourself working in the shop, or a video on YouTube of someone else that you found is really useful, whatever you're adding in there, this is also tracking whether or not students have gone in there and used those resources as well. So why I'm talking about this, you get this visual of the scatter plot of your students, and see this guy over here, even though he's done the most, he's been in, he's reading the ebook every night, he's using flashcards, he really wants to pass his exam, so he's doing a lot of the ACE preparation practice tests, but he doesn't have a horrible grade, but he's still below the class average. It's just a quick way for you to be able to see those students who might need extra help. Maybe they aren't visualizing something correctly, and you can direct them to a simulation to check out, or you can work with them one-on-one during shop time. Whereas then you have the students where, well, it's no wonder, that they have the lowest grading class. They've literally looked at the book for 3 minutes, and they've only gone into 2 of their assignments, and they didn't go through any of the simulations that are supposed to help them understand these topics. So no wonder, right? So it's just a quick way, besides just having those grades that they're getting on those assignments, it doesn't have to be a mystery of why. You can see how they're interacting with all the other tools that you've got in the course. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And like Ariel said, all of the grades from the gradebook can be easily exported and put into an Excel file. So however you have to deliver your grades to the rest of your school, they're saved in here and can be easily transported.
All right, any other questions? No?
How many total data modules are there now? Because one of the concerns we've all had a year ago or so is there's very little interactive modules for his.
Which is, when I looked at it last time, it was a lot for electricity, there's a lot for emissions and tune-up and all that. There was not much for breaks and student suspension.
You mean as far as the data scenarios and the theory simulations?
Right.
Yeah, let's take a look here. Oh, darn Excel. Okay, so for the breaks right here, and I can give you a full data list, but like I said, these spreadsheets are nice because you can see by chapter what kind of assignments there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 data scenarios that are talking about, in the break fundamentals chapter. Each of those can take 20 minutes, So how is your class organized? Do you have to have a certain hour of class time and then shop time?
Yes.
Okay, so about how much time are you in the class each week? Class time.
Well, it depends on what we're doing. Let's say we're in the classroom for 6 hours.
6 hours. Okay, so let's say that, that means during this, you'd probably have, and the nice thing about these data scenarios is that students might not just do them once, right? You've got a learning mode and a challenge mode. So they really should be doing them twice. So that's 6 times 40 minutes just in the dado scenarios. They should be reading. They've got the videos and animations, which you can watch and then talk about in class. They've got all the job sheets that they need to work on. But then you've also got these little video exercises and questions that they can work on as well. So, I mean, there's still quite a bit in here that they're working, and that's just in one chapter. And then we're working here on what chapter 59 is anti-lock brakes, traction, and stability control. In that one, this might be what you're seeing. Yeah, there's only one dado scenario for that, right? So not as much in that chapter as the one previous. But they also have the labeling activities. They have the study tools that they can work in as well, and the matching activities. So while some of them, you know, definitely have a lot more than others, there's still a lot of time that you can use this for in Phil, whether it's the dado scenarios, theory sims, and remember that they can always practice their do their certification prep. So right now, how often do you think your students are practicing, you know, the ACE certification questions? Do you go in there often, or do you just kind of have them do a practice at the end of the course?
Mostly at the end of the course. Could you type in suspension? I'd like to see that one.
Sure. Okay, so in this one, here's your videos and animations. There's one dado scenario in there for that. And for some reason, the theory simulations aren't on this spreadsheet. So I have a full list of all the theory simulations, which I'll have Ariel send you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I noticed that. I don't know why the theory simulations aren't in here.
That's what I noticed last time I looked at it. Yeah, the other question I have is there 2 separate books? Is it one for MLR and then one for, you know, AST, MAST, or is this all one unit? I mean, we have our first year is broken out into MLR, and you know it's just a lighter touch. It's, you know, maintenance and light repair.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a way to have those separated so that we have 2 teachers that are teaching that, and then we have another 2 teachers that are teaching the second year? Is that 2 separate books, or is that, do we just have to figure this out as to what?
So yeah, 2 things. I was hoping that our auto content expert could be on today, but he's on the East Coast, so it's really late for him. I can ask them, but one, we might have a kind of mapping to help you be able to separate that. These 2 books you're looking at are fully comprehensive for the whole program, so that's what they're meant for. We do have a separate book with MindTap that's just light repair, and that's the Thompson book. Do you guys have that in there? That might be something we'd want to send you as well. So, I mean, how people will do it, they can just use this and, like you said, kind of split it up. And I'll see if we have any tools, you know, that our product team has already done to help you be able to do that. Or they'll use the Thompson book for the first portion of the program.
Okay, does the Thompson book have all this as well?
It does.
I can add it in there.
All of the automotive MindTaps have basically the same kinds of assignments. They're just organized depending on the structure of the, you know, the curriculum of the book.
So it'll be for the Thompson book, it'll be at the level that the Thompson book is at.
Correct.
Yes, one has had the aerial about well, but it's getting MLR for the first year, using the system approach.
Second year, that would be great.
Do you want to see a page of a book?
Yeah. Well, if it can be exported in easy chat for that.
Yeah.
Select you.
You know, we break this all up in different ones of us teach this. We have to be able to separate some of these out. And we really need help with that. It looks like we can do it.
By blocking stuff from.
Right.
So, and what we could do is like a training with you guys on that wants to go through it. So then,
So you can hide content.
yeah, and you guys, if you have,
You go into each chapter and block it. Like, so right now we're doing
Like-
hard work, so I just want to know.
part of the text can be blocked out, yeah. So if you did like a training, part of that training can be even setting up your course how you want it to look while you're all together. And
You share courses, so at night I follow one of them, so
Yep.
they can share with the.
What's that? So,
I don't know what that is.
I don't know what it is, but I mean, is that something that comes with? Is that something that comes with our text?
Yeah. Hey, Abby,
Yep.
does this come in MindTap included?
What I'm showing you right now?
Yeah.
Yes. I forgot to show this. It's the little wrench over on the app bar on the right hand side. So this was, Chilton version right just for MindTap, so that you can look up all of the information that you need for maintenance and repairs. It'll give you the step-by-step repair procedures. You can print everything out. It provides vacuum diagrams to help with troubleshooting, photographs of what things will look like, and like I said, the print button. So this is a really great resource as well that you can just use, no matter what vehicle comes into your shop, have students look it up, or maybe the first day of class, have them look up their car, right?
Pull up a vehicle?
Sorry?
Can you just,
Pull up a vehicle?
Sure. Let's select a year. I mentioned 2011. I like looking up my first car.
oh,
This isn't my first car, but oops.
Or
Select. Let me select the vehicle. 2011. Ford. Okay, here we go. There's the Explorer. Okay, so data is available for repair, maintenance, labor estimating, bulletins, and recalls. Look in repair. So right here, it's a TOC, I can search it. Let's look at steering. Electronic power assist steering. And then I can get a description, operation, diagnosis and testing, specifications. Let's look at the specifications. Here they are for that particular car. I can, sure.
students have access to that at home?
yeah.
Yes, yep. So MindTap's completely online. This is part of the app. It's just always there. So they would have the access to this at home as well.
We
And-
just,
Test what else?
I want to look into that more and see how it is.
Yeah, it'll be in, like, on your own and play with it? Yeah, yeah. So I will set up logins for you guys tomorrow, because you have, MindTap login, right?
Yeah, I still have to
And
get
Inspire.
text support too. I haven't been able to run the data module. I
Okay,
haven't had time to go back in.
okay, I will set up through the NGL state, I'll do it for you guys tomorrow, and then you'll have login, okay?
So you can see here too, for any of the figures, you can enlarge that. It opens in a new window. You can zoom in and print that out too.
Can you pull up a line diagram?
Pull up a what?
A line diagram? Like back out a little bit and see if you can find a line diagram. So the under repair.
Okay. Repair. Okay. So which one do you want me to look for? I'm sorry.
Electrical.
Electrical. Okay.
Oh,
Engine electrical or?
Very bottom, wiring diagrams.
Oh, got it. Thank you. Okay.
Lighting
Good lighting.
Lighting.
It's right, no,
on the right.
on the right.
Straight across.
Aha.
No,
Lighting. Okay. Exterior lights. You do headlamps.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I've got 6 images.
pull it up. College.
Well, that's a 2011. It should be covered. If you pulled up mine, it's probably.
So you didn't have to tell us that.
That's wow.
They have there was one whole thing of just semester views.
Yeah.
Right now, alone,
How much is this for a student?
it's like $700,000 a student.
Or it's only 600.
She hasn't given me an estimate.
It's like $20 per student.
For 2 years or 6?
No, for the 6 years.
So it's all because it bundles together. So if you bought year to year, it'd be $20.
But that's after my textbook for everyone.
What's it after, so after the initial year, after we got it, what's the cost?
If you buy year to year. So every book varies. I don't think that we know pricing. So some of our books are $75 for visual access only for a year.
And then what they wanted to get it no longer.
Like you wanted 6 years up front. Yeah, so 6 years up front would be like the price of the book and then it's like additional dollars.
But I mean, so after we have the books initially, so like say we get the books next year, the students after that, we're not going to purchase the books. There are.
No, but you're buying 6 years. So what it is we set you up with a 6-year kind of license, or it would be like a license. So each year those seats become empty and then you refill them with your students.
So, but the students, the previous students wouldn't
Or
have
it's like
access.
wiped out. No, or like,
So, yeah,
so students don't, so the seat doesn't go with students for 6 years. The seat stays with you and it
well,
clears
and
out.
that's better for us. Well, yeah,
That's better for us, definitely.
By the time I sit these here, we would be in a stop and have access.
Yeah, and I just don't know if you would find anything where they would always be able to access. Like, it would probably be,
I have a lot of students who bought this book because they wanted it at home.
and they could do that. I mean,
The book, because they have the option to buy an additional year for themselves.
online, yes. So, yeah,
Because, I mean, it'd be hard to spin it, like, they paid for this already through tuition with them. And they leave it above and beyond.
they could, so Cengage operates at a university level as well. And so when you're in a college, you obviously go buy your own books and stuff like that. So that would be out there.
But we're paying a lot of money for all three of them. A year. We wouldn't have to spend.
I want to look at them.
Well, I think they like add fees in the office. No. Like going through the bookstore. Is the bookstore for profit?
Yeah. They mark,
So-
you can get this book on Amazon for $60 right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's like triple that.
So that's why I kind of question, like, I'm gonna send the pricing information to you. So you know what it is, and I think Kathy comes up with something else. I think that's what I kind of.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I'll contact Cassie tomorrow. I think she's like to go for that.
Yeah.
Well, we need to have that talk. They can't mark it up.
Well, if it's to us, if we're buying out of the budget for that 6 years, no, they're not gonna go.
And then we buy it for 6 years, then we can.
And the student wants to go and purchase another initial year for $20, she might mark it up to $30, I don't know.
But I don't, so that is the difference, so when students want to go on their own and buy it, they probably wouldn't buy it. They would just go on SingAgeBreak.com and purchase it it's kind of a completely individual thing.
Not give them access to the book and, that, obviously, it's like, I want to remember doing,
Do we need anything else from Abby? Thank you so much, Abby, this is so helpful.
No problem. Sorry I showed you this part last, and Ariel, I'm gonna send you some of the resources that we had talked about and the information about the Thompson book as well. And then if you guys have any other questions, please let me know. And if I don't know, we can certainly ask our product team and our automotive team. So thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Wait, Abby?
Yep.
One more question.
About 5 or 6 icons down, it looks like somebody's mouth.
Yes.
What is that?
This one?
Yeah.
So this is the Read Speaker app. So within the ebook, it can be read out loud to you. And this literally just allows you to choose whether it's a man, a woman, a British or Australian man, and the speed with which they're speaking.
If we have someone from Ethiopia, can the text be translated into their language?
It does not translate into a different language. The best we can do is put it on slow.
But they could do Google Docs. Yeah.
These are just accents.
We have the most diverse accents in there.
You are?
Over 197 languages.
Okay. Thank you, Abby.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
All right. Bye.
Right now, we have a lot of people from Nepal.
Interesting.